Welcome learners to another e-learning session from Brainpully, and today's topic is Introduction to HTML. So if we look at the contents of this session, first we will be learning about, we have divided it into 3 chapters. So in first chapter we will learn the common terminologies of HTML, what is HTML. Then we will also look at the syntax or the writing of HTML, how we can create HTML pages, what are the tags, elements, attributes, and other things. And finally, we will see the editors using which we can create HTML pages and finally view them up. Then in next sessions, we will learn the more details of designing these pages, how we can design our page, what are the elements, what are the sections, how can we make the page beautiful and present our document more efficiently. So going forward, the common terms. So when you will be working in the World Wide Web world, there will be a lot of technical jargons and linguistics associated. So few of the common words you will hear is www, World Wide Web, HTTP, the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, HTTPS, it's a secure version of the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, HTML, the markup language with which we define the HTML documents. Then terms like URL, Uniform Resource Locator, and browser. Just to quickly explain what these are. So I don't think I need to explain www in much. It's the World Wide Web. Basically, it's not the internet. So there's a difference between internet and World Wide Web. Internet is a collection of computers. It's a network of computers. World Wide Web, whereas, is a service or it's a collection of documents on internet. So why it is called a web and how it's a network, how can a document be network? So it is like that every document on internet normally refers to another document and they point to each other. So that's why it is called as World Wide Web. For example, if you are reading about some space mission about NASA on a Wikipedia page, you will see references to the NASA's website and you can click there and you can jump to that website. So that's how they make links. Even when we will make our own website, it will not be just only one page. It will be a collection of pages and they will be referring each other, linking to each other, thus creating a small web. Second is the HTTP. So HTTP is the protocol or it's a kind of a communication medium for us which basically transfers the document from server to client or from the web server to the end user who is viewing it. And then HTTPS is a secure version of that. So especially when we are doing e-commerce or we are doing some sending some sensitive information like username, password, account numbers, bank details. So we don't want users to just look into it and take it out kind of thing. So for that HTTPS was introduced to make the transactions safe. Then HTML. So this is what we will be right now focusing on. This is the language which allows us to define how our document will look to the end user. Then URL, Universal Resource Locator. So as I explained in www, World Wide Web is a collection of documents. Or in more technical terms, it's a collection of resources. So every document or a service is a resource on internet. So this URL, Uniform Resource Locator, is a address or is a key which identifies each resource in this World Wide Web. So we will again learn more in detail about that when we will start creating multiple pages and linking them together. Then the most important key of the puzzle, the browser. Finally, the window in which we can open our HTML pages and see how it will look like. What is HTML? So documents existed from some times. Even before computers, there were documents. They were written on pages. Initially, people used to write them from, even if you take Stone Age, maybe people used to engrave them on stone, but then people used to write them on paper. plant leaf from Egyptian times. Then printing technology came. There were typewriters printed. And even when computers comes, initially there was a plain ASCII documents. Like it's just simple plain text, no images, no photos, nothing. But slowly as the multimedia evolved, it allowed user to add more rich content into the document. So same way when the websites developed, slowly it allowed the user to add not only the text, images, audio, video, color, formatting, everything to the web pages. So how it's done? So it has to be stored in some way in a format which the browser can read it and represent it. So that is the language, hypertext markup language. So hypertext is your web page, and markup language says how I can define. So it's a language about the text which tells the browser how it has to be visualized or represented on the screen. So basically it's a markup language, and a markup language is basically a collection of tags. We will look in detail what are tags, and each tag can have attributes and associated values. Then basically these tags actually describe the document and its contents, and it can be a plain text, it can be tags, it can be images. We will learn them how to introduce images later on. And this entire document is finally known as a web page. And then a collection of web pages is known as a website. So again, for example, every document normally has a structure. For example, if you write an application to some place, if you write an official application, it has a structure that in the left top side we write the addressee, like to the principal, respected sir, and then we have the body, and then thank you. So similarly, if we have to tell browser that I want to show this way, so browser also expects the document to be in some structure. Then only it can decipher it. So normally that we call it as DOM, or the document object model. Basically the model in which the objects are defined in a document. So how it does is, like we have this document. It's kind of a block diagram. So we have a document, and what this document is, it is a HTML document. So we have a root element, like the main element called HTML. And as I mentioned previously, it's a tag value kind of thing. So every element in a HTML is a tag. So tags are represented in ASCII using ankle, then the tag name, and the closing ankle. So it is like I put a ankle, HTML, and ankle. So this is my tag. And then it has an associated closing tag. So it's ankle / HTML. So this HTML is the name of the tag, and whenever we start it with the ankle, so the browser can identify that this is a tag, this is not a value or not a text. And whenever we start with the ankle and a slash, it identifies, okay, the tag is closing here. So whatever is inside is contained or encapsulated into this ankle, in this tag. So see here, we will have a document, and document will have only one root element, that is called HTML. It won't have anything more. Then HTML internally has two parts, and only two parts. One is head and one is body. So two is optional, means head is optional, you can skip head. Body is optional, you can skip body also. But you cannot have a body 2 and body 3. Even if you add it, the browser will not give you an error, it will just simply ignore it. Okay, so these are the two sections. Why two sections? We will go more detail about that later. So then again, head has some head related elements, head related things inside it. Then body can have body related things, what it can contain. So it can contain images, paragraphs, lists, table, and all the fancy things that we want to show up on a web page. And then internally they can again have their own nested things. For example, a table will have rows and columns. Then inside columns again we can introduce images. So we can have a full tree of it internal. So it's like this container inside a container inside a container kind of concept. So we will go more in detail into this. So why this is important? So this is important from two perspectives. One is it tells the browser how to properly show our document. What are the hierarchy I want to show? For example, I want to show a list and then internally I want to show a sublist. So that's why I have to have a parent-child kind of relationship. Secondly, when we will be doing client-side scripting on this with JavaScript. So this document object model help us to identify these elements at runtime so that then we can manipulate with them, we can play around with them, and we can introduce interactivity to our standard HTML pages. Those things we will see later. So now let's dig a little deeper and look the tags and elements and attributes in more detail. So what is a tag, as I mentioned last? So tag is anything in HTML which is starting from ankle followed by a tag name. Now it is again important here to observe that the tag name and the starting ankle or the less than sign should not have a space in between. Secondly, normally in HTML, it is case insensitive. So if you put a small t, capital N, normally browsers ignore it. But as a good practice, it is always advisable to use a small letter tag names. Then we can have a closing bracket or greater than sign or a closing ankle somewhere in between. We will see we can introduce more things here. And after that it is followed by content. So then it can have some content. It can have another tag inside it. It can have a plain text inside it and more things we will see forward. And then finally when we are done with this tag and we want to close this up, we again use the less than sign. We use a slash and then we use the same tag name again. Again, it is case insensitive, so you can start with a capital T here and you can end with a small t here, but that is not advisable because there are actually a lot of editors which help you identify and quickly manipulate this kind of things. So even sometimes editor can misbehave. Second thing is HTML is, or the web, basically the HTML, it is never standardized. It is always recommended. So there is a committee called W3C, Worldwide Consortium for Web. So they recommend what the HTML should be like, but ultimately it comes to the browser providers or the browser vendors, manufacturers, that how they will interpret it and represent it. So this is still kind of a nightmare for a developer. So if you, there are very common instances when you design a web page and it looks different in Internet Explorer, it looks different in IE, it looks different in Chrome and different in Safari. So that's why we have to be little cautious about these things, and definitely if you are doing something at a professional scale, you would like to test it across all browsers and maybe on all devices and operating systems. Anyway, going forward, so this is below a sample page. So this is a HTML tag starting here, which is closing here at the bottom. Then inside we have two sections. We have the head section and the body section. So see, head starts, head closes. HTML doesn't closes. Body starts, body closes. So this is because both head and body are inside HTML, but head and body are disconnected within themselves. Like I cannot start a body inside a head and close head after that. So although the browsers are very forgiving, if you do this kind of things, many browsers will just ignore it or correct it for you, and they can show it in a better way. But you should not rely on those things because you never know when browsers will show it in a different way. And that is the problem. If you don't rectify early and it comes later, it gets very difficult to fix it at a later parts of the cycle of the project. So just notice on these small things and focus from the beginning. And then here it's another tag called title that is inside head, and then in body we have 3 tags. One is h1, then we have 2 ankle p tags, that is for paragraph. So we will look about these also in more details. Just to quickly brief you about these things is, title is a tag which is not visible on the page. So again, if you notice in this slide, we have annotated them. This HTML is the full HTML page, so it's just for the DOM. It won't have any visible effect. Then we have the body part and the head part. Whatever you write in the head part will never be visible inside the page, but normally it is used to set up meta attributes. One of the most important of them is the title. So title is something which comes in the title bar of the browser. It doesn't come in the page, it comes at the title bar. And then we have body. Inside that ankle h1 is a kind of tag which whatever we write inside, it shows as a big bold level 1 heading. And then ankle p is another tag which is normally used to write normal plain paragraph text. So we will actually run this in short time as a demo, and we will see how it is visualized. Okay, going more into the tags thing. So whenever we mention a tag, internally in the document object model, it is an element. It is a container, and internally it can contain more data, it can contain plain text, or it can even be empty. So for example, I can have a tag called body, and inside body I can have a tag called p, paragraph, and I can say test /p, paragraph ends here. And then I can have another tag called ankle br. So ankle br is a special tag that is for insert a break. So it gives a line break. It's like a enters in MS Word document where you just press enter and you will get a lot of line breaks. But normally line breaks doesn't contain anything. So it can be written as break start or and break end. And notice it will not have anything. It is an empty tag. Or a shorter way to write the same thing can be ankle br space / and bracket close. So this is a tag which is an empty tag, and it does not contain any data internally inside it. Then these tags can have attributes also, which gives us more detail about the tag, like what it will do. So even those we will see in coming slides. So let's move forward with those. More deep into the tags, we have additional things called attributes. So attributes define more properties of that tag. For example, so as I mentioned, tag is an element. So for example, a pen can be an element, normal pen. And then we can have associated attributes with that pen. For example, what is the color of the pen? What is the type of the pen? So similarly, I have taken an example of here called ankle img. So img is a tag that is used to include images that you will see in detail in later sessions. But see, the tag is starting here, and I said img, and it is ending here in the right hand bottom. And it is a empty tag. It doesn't contain anything internally, but it has some attributes. One of them is source. So attributes is always key, then an equal mark, and then the value. And value is always recommended to be in double quotes. Again, if you skip double quotes, the browsers are forgiving enough, they will ignore in most cases. But there are chances that you may mess things up, so it is always advisable to use double quotes as the values. So all these keys, like the tag, has a predefined meaning to it. Like I mentioned previously, ankle h1 means a heading, ankle img means an image. So then we have additional attributes like height, width, and the source. So here it is describing that load this image from this source, load the image called sun.jpg, and show it with height and width 50 and 150. So this is kind of a tag where we have just an empty tag, but we are defining attributes. Based on these attributes, browser will pick it up and it will see, okay, it's an image tag, and I have to load a source image called sun.jpg into this position. What should the height and width I should define about it? So that we define here. Again, attributes are optional many times. So for example, if you don't write height and width, it will automatically pick it from the image. But it also gives you an added control that how you want to represent it. So that was about the basic introduction, like what is HTML tags and all. So we'll see a quick demo. So even to do a demo, we need to see how do I start writing HTML. Okay, it's good. It's very nice. It's simple HTML. It's a simple text. I can just write ankles and start writing things with it. But where to write? How to write? What are the softwares do I need? Do they cost? What is the licensing? So one of the good thing about HTML is it's a plain text, as I mentioned, and you don't need any fancy editor or a very expensive software to start working with this. What you can do, you can use any plain normal text editor like Notepad, and you can start writing. Then you can use any browser to visualize it. So let's see how it's done. So I will start by Notepad. This is a simple Notepad. I will just, for sake of clarity, I will increase the font. So we start with the HTML. So it's always a good habit to keep closing the tags while you open. So it helps you keep track of the tags. So this is our HTML block. Then inside we will have a head and body. So let's have it. And then head closed, then I have a body. And body closed. Now it's kind of a very basic blank HTML. So let's see what it looks like and what it does. So I just save it, file, save, and say I save it in my documents in a folder called HTML. Now notice Notepad by default uses the extension txt. If I just write a name, example HT, my first HTML. So for browsers to understand or recognize that this is a HTML page, I have to have an extension either .htm or HTML. So let's have HTML. But the problem here is if I just save it like this, it will create a file called my first HTML.html.txt. So it's important that we notice this because this sometimes can lead to very frustrating situations where we are trying to create a document, we are trying to view it, but it's not coming up. So I will show you how we can mess it up. So for example, I just write it like this and I don't change the type and I do save. So notice in this folder, it actually saved properly. But normally it's always advised that you go and you select all files and you then write the name. Save, do you want to press yes? Another option, so once we have saved, you will see icon will come like either it will be your Internet Explorer icon or a Firefox or a Safari icon based on what is your browser you have set as the default browser, and then you can just double click it or right click and open it. So I will open it in Firefox for now. Just click and see it is showing the path of the file here .html, and it's a blank document, there is nothing in it. Now let's start writing something. So notice here the tab name is also coming as the file name. I don't like that. I want to put a title that something should be visible there. So I can go and in the head I have an attribute called title. element called title. I close it and I can give it a title like my first web page. File, save. If I come here, I refresh it. See, note the tab. It gets changed to my first page. Similarly, if I open it in another browser, I can open it with Chrome. Notice the title here. Now let's add few more things. So in the body, I want to have a big heading called welcome to HTML. Then I will add some paragraphs like something about HTML. So I start with a tag called h1. So going forward, we will definitely learn more about each of the tag, how they are used, why they are used, what is the effect. But just for a demo, let me just show you it up quickly. /h1, say welcome to HTML. File, save. Let's go to any of my browser, refresh, and see. Welcome to HTML. With this, I want to show you another small editor, which is one of my favorite editors. It is also free and open source. It is known as Notepad++, and you can look at this URL. You can download it from this particular URL. It's free. So for this session, I have already downloaded and installed it. So I can go all programs, Notepad++, and I have Notepad++. In this, I will go and open the same file, open, my document, HTML, my first HTML. See, it has an amazing feature of syntax highlighting. Here it is highlighting all the tags in blue and the text or the data in normal black. So say for example body, we have talked about attributes, so we will see a quick attribute called bg color. So again notice it has an IntelliSense that it also shows you whether it's a valid attribute or a standard attribute or not. So as soon as I type it completely, say bg color, it turns red. So red is a symbol for attributes in Notepad++. Different editors can show you it in a different color. Other possible editors are, you can use Visual Studio, you can use Adobe's Dreamweaver, and there are a lot of free open source editors available. So in the background colors, I put a color called yellow. So see then purple, purple is the attribute. So we have a page and let's see how it looks. So we have a yellow HTML page with the heading called welcome to HTML. So with this demo, we conclude our first chapter. So just to summarize the things, what we have learned is, we have learned about some common web terminologies. We have seen what is HTML. We have seen what is HTML document, how it is organized. We have seen what is the basic syntax of writing HTML, what is a tag, what are the elements and attributes, and we have seen few editors.